Today I'm going to be talking about communication, especially in the workplace. The importance of communication in society, especially in the workplace, is undeniable. Communication is a tool that everybody utilizes each day and has had an immense impact throughout pop culture history as well as history in general. Communication is an essential part of human life, and we use it for everyday activities that we perform. There are many different types of communication, such as verbal, nonverbal, interpersonal, and written, and each one takes on a different role in everyday life. Talk about the natural sciences. When it comes to the natural sciences, one of the branches that I feel that communication falls into would have to be biology. I think this because I would consider communication to be a part of the study of life and living organisms, because even though communication isn't alive, it allows different people to express themselves to one another in a way that can be comprehended by the people they are trying to communicate with. Communication has had a definite impact on the natural sciences, even if it can be hard to pinpoint. There are many resources that are needed in order to facilitate good communication. Many of these resources are physical objects or items, but others are resources provided by education and the schooling system. When it comes to the physical resources that are needed to facilitate communication, a few come to mind right away, such as paper for writing letters and the equipment needed to create technology, which is where lots of communication takes place in today's world. Technology plays a big role in thinking about communication as a whole because it has allowed written communication to take off and become increasingly more important throughout society. Understanding the nature of communication, it's important to note that one of the biggest pieces of communication is the written aspect as a whole. There are many different ways to communicate through writing, ranging from a physical, handwritten letter or note to a simple email or a research paper that you're writing for class at a university. There's been a lot more pressure on communication throughout the education system in recent years, as there has been a decline in teaching the simpler skills involved in everyday communication. This is especially due to the global pandemic, or COVID-19, that has taken the world by storm in the past 2 or 3 years. Children that have been learning completely remotely haven't had as much interaction with others as they normally would have gotten in the past couple of years. This is potentially leading to young children not developing the proper skill set when facing oral communication with others and could potentially be a hazard for those children as they grow up and move into the workforce. There have been many concerns with this, as children that don't develop their social and communication skills to the desired level may struggle later in life if they decide to seek higher education. I've seen firsthand how some of my colleagues here at school communicate with one another, especially through their schoolwork. It is always amazing to me to see a lack of written communication skills in a college learning environment. This prompts the question, will the amount of papers and projects be lowered due to these circumstances in the years to come when it comes time for those affected to undergo a career in higher education? As it stands now, there is a great deal of written communication skills necessary for students to do well in high school and college. If an entire generation of children come into school all at once and they lack the basic skills needed to perform their educational tasks, will the requirements for graduation be less than they are today? Or will the school system stay just as rigorous as it is now, and maybe we'll see dropout rates begin to rise? Sciences, the importance of communication is that communication itself is actually a field within the social sciences. There are two disciplines of communication as a whole: verbal and nonverbal communication. There are many different types that fall within these two categories, but both are extremely important for effective communication within society today. Understanding the importance of communication within society is crucial to fully understanding human relationships and behavior within society, which is one of the main goals of the social sciences. When it comes to verbal communication, language plays a key role. Because there are so many different languages, it's relatively common for someone to speak more than one. Verbal communication can differ drastically from person to person depending on the language that they're speaking, as well as where they were raised and how well they learn the languages that they speak. Verbal communication is the most common form of communication when it comes to interacting with others, and it's also very important throughout the workplace. It could even be argued that verbal communication is the biggest form of communication that's experienced at work. Many universities are even raising their curriculum requirements in regards to oral communication by implementing more oral presentations and public speaking practices for their business students, as well as any of their language majors. As far as nonverbal communication is concerned, it's a very important type of communication all on its own. Being able to communicate well without actually speaking to someone is a very important tool in many professions. When it comes to humanities, the range of communication as a whole lies mainly within the social sciences and humanities realms. Considering that it differs from anything physical, which would be the natural sciences, communication is definitely a hot topic when it comes to educational debates as well as how it's being used throughout the workplace. Communication differs greatly by culture and region, especially when it comes to verbal communication. There have been many studies shown that oral communication is one of the top skills that employers are currently looking for college graduates looking to enter the workforce. All aspects of communication are extremely important in everyday life. Communicating with others is a major foundation that one needs to facilitate good relationships with those around them and is a skill set that will help you become a successful member of society.